world specifically?
It's pretty big, I have to be honest. It's just a red line that it crosses for many people. Jeffrey Epstein is literally the most well-known convicted pedophile in modern-day history. This is something that's been talked about by many people serving in the administration, myself, and many others on the right and the left, of there needing to be transparency of the rich and powerful elites that were in his circle while he was just one of the worst serial abusers of young women. It has been a very serious situation for the administration, and many people are speaking out online. You've seen it. You saw it at Turning Point Student Action Summit this weekend. And a lot of people in MAGA, they really want to know more information about the people that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. And is there a blackmail list? And are there foreign countries' governments involved? And there's nothing wrong with people continuing to ask that.
Trump. You've made that clear. You have campaigned for him. Is there anything, though, you'd critique or do differently?
My critique is not being focused on America first, but I largely blame that on our Congress because I serve in the House. I also blame that on who's advising him in the White House. You know, keeping him on nonstop tours around the world and nonstop meetings with foreign countries' leaders is not America first. It's just not. I think domestic policy should be the most important issue that the president and the Republican-controlled House and Senate are working on, and that showed up in the election on Tuesday.
But as the president, does he get some responsibility for that?
Well, of course. I mean, every president is responsible for the way that they lead, but they're also in a silo of information. And I think that's why after the election on Tuesday, you saw President Trump come out and react differently, probably because they couldn't keep him siloed. And here's the polls, sir, and this is what people are saying. I think he saw for himself, and he's reacted.
It's very interesting. You're an influential Republican in the House of Representatives, and we hear you breaking with your party on several issues, like the shutdown, the government shutdown, health care, foreign policy, the Epstein files. You say that's nothing new, but Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's arguing that this is all a, quote, revenge tour on your part because President Trump prevented you from running for Georgia's Senate seat next year.
You see Marjorie Taylor Greene doing her leftist tour. And really, to be honest with you, I don't see a lot of things wrong with what she's saying. She's really telling the truth. She's telling the truth that we do have a lot of weak Republicans. You can look in my stuff. I'm guilty of saying it. You can look on my social media. I'm always saying it. You know, we have a lot of weak ones. It's horrible. But what my concern is at this point, right now, we need a real tight message. We need a message that we all need to reverberate throughout the Republican Party, throughout MAGA. We need to stay on message. And what is that message, ladies and gentlemen? We need to tout the economy. We need to talk about President Donald Trump's accomplishments, because this is why we're having all the Epstein files. This is why we're having all the distractions by the Democrats. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, we had the shutdown. And believe it or not, this is why we had the 2-year shutdown with the virus. See, as long as President Donald Trump is the threat of holding power from the Democrats and from the globalists, they will do any and everything it takes to get that power back or to lessen his ability to run this country. And they don't want the country to have prosperity. They want us to lose a lot of money, which is why Jerome Powell will not lower the interest rate. They're saying that that the Democrats didn't get anything out of the shutdown. They did get something, trust me. Not just that, those little small wins in New York and in other places, New Jersey, that was nothing. The major win that the Democrats got out of this was $1 trillion loss in the American economy. 40 days of no government, we lost over $1 trillion, right? The GDP went down. Interest rates went up slightly. It's tyranny. And if I were to go to Congress, believe it or not, I was looking forward to meeting Marjorie Taylor Greene, and in a way, I still am. But here, President Donald Trump has now dropped his support for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, she's going too hard at this, and I'm gonna tell you something. When you have when you have people that are in the blogosphere like this, YouTube, they have podcasts, very powerful. She's on Steve Bannon, she's on Alex Jones, she's on with Tucker, you name them, Joe Rogan, some of the top ones. And when you're listening to them talking, you get inspired and you start getting all this attention from millions and millions and millions of people and donations, and you kind of want to lean toward them, but you have to be careful not to do that, especially if you're in Congress. You have to do what's right for the overall message and for the overall accomplishments of President Donald Trump, because President Donald Trump is doing what's best for the country. So yeah, I don't mind what she's saying. I just think the timing of what she's saying is. But let me tell you, at the end of that interview, she asked the question, was this about President Donald Trump not supporting your run for Senate? And it is. It is, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out. We're going to go here to this article. Breaking. A stunning development. President Donald Trump withdraws his support of an endorsement from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Wow. This is what President Donald Trump said in his Truth Social right here. I'm withdrawing my support and endorsement from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory on the shutdown, closed borders, low taxes, no men and women's sports, or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, biggest regulation cuts in history, stopping 8 wars, rebuilding our military, being respected by every country in the world, as opposed of being the laughingstock that we had been the past 12 months ago, record-setting, invested in the U.S., having created the hottest country anywhere in the world from being a dead country just 12 months ago, and so much more. All I see wacky Marjorie do is complain. It seemed to all begin when I sent her a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor. She was at 12% and didn't have a chance unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. She has told many people that she was upset that I didn't return her phone calls anymore, but with 219 congressmen and women, 53 U.S. senators, and 24 cabinet members, and almost 200 countries, and otherwise normal life to lead. I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. I understand that. Wonderful. Conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia. Hold on, I can't stop laughing. They too are fed up with her and her antics. If the right person runs, they will have my commitment and unyielding support. She has gone far left, even going on The View with her low IQ Republican hating anchors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It's President Donald Trump. So this appears to be about President Donald Trump telling her, saying, listen, the polls are showing that, listen, 12% in Georgia, you're not going to get it. Looks like, I think Brad Raffensperger, y'all remember that guy? When I was still here on YouTube, that was the stuff. Remember when Georgia shut down at the same time as Pennsylvania and South Carolina and Arizona called it early? Well, Brad Raffensperger, which was the state secretary of state there in Georgia, who did some shady stuff. And the courts was backing him and supporting him every inch of the way when President Donald Trump challenged it. He even tried to sue President Donald Trump and bring some kind of a case against him for racketeering or conspiracy or something, when President Donald Trump called him and said, hey, I need you to find those 11 electoral votes because all of this is on you, buddy. So you need to go ahead and find those 11 electoral votes so I can win this. I've already won. The people stole it, and you know they stole it.
These women have been waiting, some of them for decades. I talked to several victims that were raped by Jeffrey Epstein back in the 90s. And so this is information that has needed to come out for a very long time, and the American people have demanded it. And so the American people deserve to see transparency from their government. Rich, powerful people should not be protected. That is completely wrong. And it's a message to victims everywhere, victims of rape, human trafficking, and children who are trapped in terrible situations, that the government will not protect the predators, that we will work hard to protect the victims.
So,
You know, I really find it really ironic that people were not on this pulpit talking about the Jeffrey Epstein's during Joe Biden's presidency. They wasn't doing that. But now that President Donald Trump is in on his second term, this has turned into, from my perspective, the Russia hoax of 2025. You had major names here on YouTube and all of the platforms going crazy because of the Epstein files. I believe we can do two things at once. I believe that we can seek justice without stepping on the toes of progress. Here on one side, we have a major deal with people who were victims of the Epstein, rich people and all of that stuff. And thank God that they're healing and they're moving forward with their life. President Donald Trump, actually, when he had Mar-a-Lago and kicked Epstein out, was protecting those victims. He was protecting them, kicking them out. And he told the girl in the email, Gasoline, however you pronounce the name, Gasoline, he told her in the email, cut it out, stop. What was he telling her to cut it out? What was he telling her to stop? Stop recruiting these young ladies who are working in this sandwich shop at Mar-a-Lago. Leave them alone. They're 16 years old. I see what you're doing. Leave them alone. President Donald Trump worked with the FBI. He was an informant. So in one aspect, I believe this is unfair to President Donald Trump, who wants to talk about, as you saw him talk about, even in his rejection of support for Marjorie Taylor Greene, he wants to talk about all of the major things that he's doing. Shucks, he's almost 80 years old. He's trying to save the country. On one side, you got the Epstein that's very important to some people, but on the other side, we have a country to save from globalists and from evil. Which one do you want? What's more important? What's more important? Saving the country, working with President Donald Trump, getting with him 110%, or do you want to waste all of our resources and time and airtime and messaging time and talking about the Epstein files? Because all you're doing is feeding it to the hands of the Democrats, and they're taking it. So I believe President Donald Trump is upset with her for that too. And he's upset with the Republican Party for not pushing all of his accomplishments. So there you have it. I believe that's where it is. But I believe that Marjorie Taylor, unless she gets in touch with President Donald Trump and ask him, apologize for what she's been doing and say, hey, you know what? I know you was just looking out for my best interests. You know what I mean? I hate that I lost your support. I tell you what, I'm going to take your advice. I'm not going to run for Senate. I'm not going to run for governor. I'm going to stay right here. I know you need me. I'm needed here in the House, and I'm going to be able to support you 100% whether you have my back or not. And I believe President Donald Trump, who is very graceful, will take her back, and they'll be best friends again. But why fall apart at such a time as this? We're not even a year. Well, coming up in January, late January, will be a year. We have 3 more years to get ourselves together, get back in rhythm, get on message, and let me retract that, because we have to win in 2026. We have to win this up and coming election, or else the Democrats take the House or take the Senate, and then we were going to be back at what? Impeachments, investigations, and the Democrats never, ever, never, what I say? Never, ever talk about doing anything for the American people. As a matter of fact, President Donald Trump is setting them up right now with a great, great left jab. He's going to put the $2,000 out there And he's going to talk about giving that to them. And watch the Democrats come up and talk about $2,000 ain't nothing. Watch Jasmine Crockett, ghetto Jasmine, come out, $2,000 ain't nothing. Yeah. No, you raising millions and using it all on your hair and everything. But, yeah, that ain't nothing to you, but it's something to us, to the American people. But it's going to force the Democrats to show their real true colors. They don't want to give the American people something. Give that to the illegals. They are sick. They need the commodities and care and all of this stuff. That just give your house away to them. Give everything to them, because they are voters and they vote Democrat. Well, anyway, like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to be an Avenger of this channel. I'm seeking revenge on big tech for kicking me off for almost 4 years, making me lose my audience, lose subscribers, lose potential income, just messed with me. And I know vengeance, as I said in my other video, my coming back video, I know the Bible tells us that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. But the Bible never tells us who God is going to raise up to exact that revenge. And he could use you to help me get a revenge on them by sharing the video, liking the video, commenting on the video, letting people know about Pastor Jerone TV.